Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you friends for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. Lady accused me of not changing her filter, but I did. So I put a screw in her dashboard, and she ended up paying to get the rattling noise gone. The second story. Colleague threatening me. The police hounded him and arrested him. The third story. A butt-grabbing boss and his boss got fired, and ex-employees, older and not good-looking ladies, were immediately rehired. On to the first story. What's that rattling noise? So years ago, I moved to the city with no job. Being as young as I was, finding a job was pretty hard. I asked my uncle if he could find me something at the auto dealership he worked at. I found my way into the lube bay, oil changes and basic maintenance. I started in the summer, and man was it hot. Hot engines, hot oil, and just general hotness. But as much as I felt like I was in hell, I would not let that affect my work. I was more than a lube tech. I was a craftsman. If it was busy, I would make sure every last thing was done. New filter, vacuum all corners and undermats, record your tire tread depth and rotate your tires if need be. If it was slow, I would go above and beyond. Wash the inside of your windows, wash your wheels, blow out your air filters. Overall, I felt like I was a pretty solid worker and did my job how I would want it done myself. All customers are different and unique. Some are appreciative, awesome. Some could care less, most people. Some are picky, not many though, and some are just plain horrible. This is a story about the latter. This woman drove a purple minivan, and we shall call her MV. MV came in my first week. It was rather slow, and a greaseball I work with asked me if I would take MV so that he could go home early. Greaseball loved to go home early, and I love making more money. So I said, yeah, no prob, Greaseball. A lot boy pulls the van up to my pit, and I crank out all the engine stuff. New oil, new filter, top off fluids, and go through my whole check sheet. Done, no prob. Now off to clean the car. I notice it's dirty as I'm putting on new gloves. Open the door and it hits me. This beast smelt like a hot a-hole on a humid summer day in the ghettos of Bombay. There were 2 car seats that were speckled by half-eaten Skittles, lollipops, and boogers. The floors were trashed. Juice bottles, milkshakes, cereal everywhere. Shall I go on? Okay, an empty CD case and 20-ish DVDs scattered abroad. Tissues with God knows what on them. Molding Chinese food. Dirty socks, underwear, and diapers. Candy that had become part of the interior. McDonald's bags stuffed with garbage. And maybe even part of a dead horse. I'm not even sure. So I tough it out and do my whole routine. DVDs back in the case. Dirty clothes bagged up. Garbage emptied, floors vacuumed. As well as I could, and car washed. I even got the inside windows. Done and good riddance. By far the worst vehicle I had in my first month. Flash forward a few months. It's busy as hell, and we're short-staffed as it's lunchtime. My next car pulls up and when you know it, it belongs to MV. Same purple van, same smell, same mess. And I had to do it. So I'm putting in my new mileage sticker. The one we put in the corner of your windshield so you know when you should get your next oil change, and realize that it's only been 1,500-ish miles since last change. Now, we all tell you to change oil every 3,000 miles, but that's just a big scam to get money from you guys. Sorry, but it's true. Most cars on the road today could go 6,000 miles or more before they need a change. But if you knew that, auto shops will lose a huge chunk of business. So I go over to my service manager and ask him why they need an oil change. It's only been 1.5K. I plead the oil is still good. He informs me that MV claimed that I had not changed her filter, that I was going to receive a warning later, which could lead to termination if I couldn't correct that error in service. That got me steamed. Literally, I always changed oil filters. I had heard stories of cheap lube places and how they would not change an oil filter to increase store profit, but that isn't me. I mean, like, wow. So, whatever, I'm steamed, but I know after I finish this one I'll be on lunch. So I crank it out and cleaned it up, just like I do for all my customers, and just like I did last time for MV. The next hour of leisure was well-deserved. Flash forward a few months, and MV is back. She's on a service plan and gets scheduled oil changes every 6 months. I guess the last one was free too, because of some loophole or something. Well, a new guy gets MV, and I sympathize with him as he gets the first whiff of MV's new winter smell. While he's changing the oil, I told him to make sure to change the filter, and I gave him a paint pen to mark it with. We'll sometimes mark your filter with a timestamp, putting a dab of paint on your filter and engine. That way we can tell if it's been tampered with since your last visit. I help him make a note of that in our system, so that we can see it, but the customer can't. I had a hunch she would be back. And wouldn't you know it, 1,500 miles later it was back and it was my duty, once again. Talk with our service manager, show him the note and the markings. He goes off to inform MV that the filter was changed and that she would not be getting another service until 3,000 miles. But before I returned the vehicle to her, I had to mess with her a little. I ever so carefully popped open a crevice of her dashboard and threw a screw in there and put the dashboard back in place. At 3,000 miles, MV was back, but this time she went to a mechanic because she needed to get a strange rattling noise checked out. So I went over to the mechanic, whom I got along pretty well with. I told him about our history with her as well as the screw, and he got a pretty big kick out of that. I asked him to tell MV that it would take a lot of time for that, as well as ordering some new parts. Total cost was about $200 more than the free oil change that she had accused me into doing. Best part was the tech told me he wiped off the old filter really well and remarked it. And for the first time, MV really didn't get her filter changed. The second story is, you want to think you can threaten me with no consequences? Enjoy jail time. This is my first post I ever made on here, and I have a few stories to tell if anyone is interested. But here it is. I used to work at a gas station. Me being only 20 at the time, I needed a job, since I was new to my area after moving from one state to another, and the job was good. The manager, she was awesome. She was the sweetest thing before she left, and the manager after was just as awesome before I moved to a new apartment. But the previous assistant manager when I started working there, let's call him Richard for obvious reasons. And let's call the first manager Angel. Obviously not real name. Richard was known to be a very hostile, creepy when not around the manager, and made us try to do his load of the work and blamed us for being lazy when we couldn't do it, and our jobs fast enough. My coworkers and I had brought the situation to the higher-ups numerous times, and as much as she wanted us to be heard, Angel couldn't do anything, and it came to a boiling point 2 months down the line on my end. Little fact about me, I am timid, I am autistic, and I get very stressed when someone threatens me with my life. I get very, very sick to my core and lack of breathing if I have to deal with that, and I use that to my advantage. On the shift I was supposed to be working that day, I had asked my friend Cross, not real name, if I could borrow his speaker to listen to my music. My manager said as long as I can do my job behind the register and Cross was okay with it, I can listen to my music. And I asked specifically if I can borrow it to take home for a couple of days, until my new speaker came in that I brought the previous paycheck. Cross said okay, and shift change happened and Richard came in. He sees me listening to my music, and he asks me to play his music from his phone on Cross's speaker. I said no. The speaker is mine for the next couple of days, and I don't want to be held responsible for any damage. He then whispers under his breath for me to hear, but for the cameras in the store to not pick up. I have a knife, you know, and I basically in a single moment, and quickly too, came up with a way to end his BS. The revenge. I yelled at him loud enough so the cameras can pick it up, knowing that he would have to say something to defend himself. Why are you threatening me with a knife? And I kinda had a mixture of fear if he actually had one, and determination to make this man suffer for me and my coworkers' verbal abuse and sexual harassment for the past couple months. He backs away and said, hey, it was just a joke, chill out. And I knew I had to do something, because at that point I said, a joke, huh? Here's a good joke. Have fun working alone. I quit. I walked out, called my mother who I lived with nearby, explained the situations in tears after the adrenaline and fear finished its end, and I then was told and called my manager to explain to her the situation. Me and my mom, after she picked me up and took me back to the store to talk with my manager, I wound up in a situation, with the manager, the branch manager, and the district manager asking about what happened. And I explained it again, calmer now in full, and they asked if I was okay. I told them, no, I have a guy who's been harassing my other coworkers, verbally assaulting me and the others, try and threaten an autistic person who did nothing, except say no to using a speaker, get threatened with a knife. I do not feel safe with him around. They asked me about the speaker. I called Cross, and he confirmed I asked to borrow the speaker overnight, and backed me up with what the assistant manager has done in the past, and at that point police were called. They checked the cameras and heard me yelling about the knife, and after a few months I come to learn he got fired from his last job, and arrested for them finding out he was in jail for threatening physical harm to a disabled person, an unauthorized concealed weapon. He wanted a speaker, he got a speaker. A few speakers on a podium who put his A in jail about a week after. The last story is, do not mess with a redhead. I'm a lady. I was 48 at the time with a fantastic figure. Lots of yoga and ballet type exercises. Natural fiery red hair and a strong work ethic. The company I worked for was a large hotel chain and I was in the front lobby, doing lots of greeting and helping with any needs and wishes. The way we looked in our uniforms was very important, and the company's CEO often showed up doing surprise inspections. I had my uniforms tailored to fit, ironed it every night, and I lucked out that the uniform color really made my hair color pop. So the CEO, a ladies' man, always stopped to say hello, have a personal chat, a cup of coffee and the warm cookies we always have to serve. He was always rating the quality of everything, Very hands-on boss from my point of view. A new boss was hired as the district manager, 2 levels above me, and he hired a new hotel general manager I will call Dickie. Dickie was 23 years old, and the type of guy that's known by all as a brown-noser. Dickie also thought he was a ladies' man, but had a very plain wife and 3 tiny toddlers that were sadly constantly sick with snotty noses. As a GM, he wanted only pretty, shapely ladies working for him. He started right away firing all the older ladies and replacing them with lovely women. Dickie also thought it was okay to pat, pinch, and whole hand grab the ladies' behinds. The Dick would walk past a line of us ladies, working at the counter, and every one of us got a swat. You could hear pop, 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 pop as he made contact with each butt. I was by far the oldest, so I objected and told him loudly, "Dickie, stop that. I'm old enough to be your mother." He did not stop, so 3 of us ladies went to the district manager and asked him to tell Dickie to stop with the touching. A month later, Dickie was still patting bottoms. I asked the district manager if he had a talk with Dickie yet. 4 of us ladies heard the DM said yes, the talk had been given. A week later, Dickie is still pinching while the DM was gone on a family vacation at a nudist hotel in Palm Springs. A lady in Human Resource asked the Dick if the DM had talked to him yet about complaints made about his actions. No was the answer. There had been no serious conversations with the DM about anything. So the district manager had lied to us ladies. Okay, that was it for me. That evening I secured another job and wrote a 7-page letter to the CEO. The letter was about a great company, great place to work, a bad pinching and grabbing boss, and how this type of action could really cost the company a lot of money because of the actions and non-actions of the managers. Situations like this are a food source for news outlets. If the CEO wanted to talk to the district manager, he would have to call the DM at the nudist hotel since he was on vacation. Next day, I faxed the CEO the long letter. Apparently, the big boss was out of the office. The secretary called him on his phone and read the letter to him. CEO called me from his car within half an hour of my fax, and we had an hour-long conversation. I did also get to include my "I'm old enough to be your mother" comment, and I laughed when I heard a sharp intake of breath on the phone line. I told CEO that as of the end of my shift, I no longer worked for him because I had a job elsewhere. CEO called the district manager at the hotel and told to go directly to the CEO's office when he got back from vacation. He was fired the next week, I heard. Dickie also got a call, and he was told to leave the hotel property and stay away. 2 of the ladies that had been fired were rehired the next day and told to run the hotel until further notice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.